Greetings. I'm the Woodkeeper. Do you wanna hear a story? Once upon a time, there lived an old man. The old man lived by himself in a run-down house in the woods. His house was encircled by ancient lumpy trees and his garden was overgrown and uncared for. He was a hermit who hardly ever left his house. Nobody was aware of his name or his origins. He was described by those who saw him as having long white hair, a leathery wrinkled face, and dark piercing eyes. On occasion he would stagger around while easing a king. The old man was said to be both very wealthy and very weak. It was said that he kept a large amount of wealth hidden away in his eerie home. Every time they passed the old man's house in the woods, kids enjoyed to tease him by shouting at him and calling him names. Sometimes, they would even throw rocks at his home, breaking the window panes. Some of the older kids would occasionally sneak up to the house and look in through the dirty windows just to see him. One night, 3 rebellious kids made the decision to break into the old man's home. In the dark, they made their way through the misty woods. They wanted to find out if the old man's rumors were true. The wind was rustling through the limbs of the old lumpy trees as the moon shone down on the creepy house. They noticed that the lights were out and assumed the old man was asleep. The first 2 kids went to the front door, and the 3rd kid waited outside to signal his friend if anyone arrived. It was almost midnight. The 3rd kid is anxiously awaiting the arrival of his friends. Why was it taking them so long, he wondered. Suddenly he heard loud screams coming from the old man's house. He recognized those screams as his friends. His heart began to beat more swiftly. He approached the front door, but before he could take another step, he noticed that it was already open. Before him a figure could be seen, and he heard footsteps moving down the path. He struggled to see, but when he finally did, he realized it was the old man. What he anticipated not to see was revealed. A few days later, 3 unidentified corpses washed up on the town's river. The bodies had been terribly damaged and twisted. Their heads had been smashed beyond recognition, and every bone in their bodies had been fractured. The 3 bodies had essentially been reduced to 3 squishy lumps of flesh. There was a great fear after the bodies were found. Everyone was talking about it, and nobody knew who they were or what had happened to them. But the townspeople also noticed another strange thing. The old man's house vanished from the woods, as if it had never been there. Nobody dared to sneak up to the location where the old man's house formerly stood as a result of these weird incidents, which caused a small, uncontrollable shiver of fear to run down the townspeople's spines. Well, that's the story of Old Man in the Woods. See you again in another Woodkeeper's Tale.